printer ran out of toner, so I had to ask someone to print it. Thank you, Suthas, for such a kind introduction. Thank you for coming. So I quickly put together. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, sorry. So I will try to get to the point. So Khawateen Hazrat, there is an anonymous Arabic proverb that goes something like this, that your neighbor will not tell you that your horse is sick. Only your horse will.
Right.
So you may be wondering about what the relevance of this in a blasphemy seminar. So just give me approximately 11 minutes and of your attention, and I promise to not misuse it.
Timer is on.
So first, in order to put things a little in perspective, I'd like to take you through a few anecdotes that I put together. You see, in a blasphemy seminar, we should be lamenting, and especially for left people, we should be lamenting about how the most humane Pope in the history of Catholicism, while on the subject of Charlie Hebdo, modified the moral teachings of Jesus Christ and said, if my good friend Dr. Gaspari says a curse word against my mother, he can expect a punch. Well, I tried to put it to test. I went around and asked quite a few mothers if they had heard that what Pope said, and what they would like their sons to do in such an unfortunate situation. Without an exception, I tell you, every single one of them said, well, ignore and just come home.
That's good.
Well, mothers are beautiful that way. Good. Or we can weep for a mother of 5, Asya Bibi, who went to a public well to fetch some water for her thirsty children. She was politely told by some women there that she was a Christian and she should try to find another well, as this one was for Muslims only. Well, obviously the angry mother in her roared, so what kind of a prophet would forbid the children of other religions from having water?
Yes.
Well, currently she is waiting for her turn to be killed in Adiala jail by the state of Pakistan. I have been told that it's inhumane for a mob to kill blasphemers. So state does the job. If this all is not enough, Pakistani Foreign Office has announced that Pakistan, with the support of Saudi Arabia and other Muslim countries, intends to go to United Nations to make blasphemy an international offense.
Oh my God.
Presently, Pakistani media is busy debating if opposing blasphemy law should also be considered blasphemy. So that's where the debate currently is. So we should know where the debate is. And the current narrative of blasphemy law goes as far back as the creation, before the creation of Pakistan. It was the case of Ilmdeen, many of you would know, who killed a Hindu professor for writing a book that Ilmdeen, who ironically and curiously was not able to read the book himself, found the book blasphemous. The case went to the court. Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was his defense lawyer. It is said that the Jinnah fought his case on a special request from Sir Allama Iqbal. Jinnah urged Ilmdeen to enter a plea of not guilty and to say that he had acted due to extreme provocation. Well, Ilmdeen refused to offer such a plea and insisted that he was proud of his actions. He was found guilty by the British law. In a more recent instance, former Chief Justice of Lahore High Court, Khwaja Muhammad Sharif, is currently the defense lawyer of Mumtaz Qadri, the Chief Justice of Lahore High Court, who just retired. And we all know who Mumtaz Qadri is. The fact that Muslim elite, this is basically what the curious point is, the fact that the Muslim elite have always found a soft spot for blasphemy killers brings me to the focal point of my argument today that I just would like to present to you all. You see, depending on which side of the aisle you are, blasphemy either a thought crime or an offensive lie. So I say let's talk about lies a little. We have talked about lies. Unless you are a very shrewd and an unethical person, who desires to rule others by deception. You have to sincerely believe in a lie yourself before you can propagate it. Therefore, the line between what is false and what is true is always a moving one. So, scientists make this mistake of believing in lies. Historians make the mistakes. Preachers make this mistake. Teachers make this mistake of believing in lies. So we all happen to sometimes believe in some sort of lies. It's not because we want to believe in those, but because those are the truths we grew up on. So, habits, you see. Lies are not unimportant, I would say. In fact, truths and lies walk together hand in hand in order to complete the complex picture of our imagined reality. So lies fill the gap in our favorite human stories. They shape our individual and collective narrative. Lies provide us cognitive and emotional support and comfort. Above all, lies protect us from the embarrassment of not knowing something. They shield us from the horrors of countless unknowns. So it's not a coincidence that if you know your destination, the distance to it feels shorter. Have you noticed? So, and not knowing is a burden hard to bear, as knowing lowers our anxiety. Whether it is true or false is secondary. And such is our emotional need, such is our want, and such is our destiny. So, but here's the thing, the individual lie is different from a collective one in a way that when it crumbles, you only hear a whimper, not a thunder. But speaking of thunders, it is said that the humanity over centuries and millennia has suffered 4 major blasphemous thunders that it's still recovering from. These shocks are the result of, shall I say, new lies or truth replacing the old ones. But the 4 major ones, let me quickly just put them together. An individual, you see, was a period when humans did not know the correlation between sex and pregnancy. It's hard to imagine, but there has been. Stranger thing happened. Religions of the time worshipped women because, like trees, they saw women renewing life, sustaining it. They marveled at women. To them it was miraculous. It was like God speaking through women while men folks just watched. It was a beautiful lie, at least for women. The discovery of men playing a role in the renewal of life was the first collective shock. It was blasphemous for goddesses, for religions of the time. The second major shock when Galileo Galilei uttered the famous line, we all know that the sun does not revolve around the earth, but the earth does. Church was stunned at his audacity. Public was baffled. Only in 1992, Pope issued an apology to the dead Galileo. And our eyes, when looking up, still tell us the old story. The third shock came when the Darwin suggested an alternate origin of life. Evolution, natural selection, monkeys? Does that mean God did not create Eve from Adam? But new questions like these arose. So which story is true? Which one should I accept before I propagate it? The fourth shock has not completely landed upon us yet, in my opinion. You can only hear the thunder from afar. You see, Freud has made an obscure observation that the part of our brain responsible for making decisions is not in our control. Like many other organs such as heart, livers, lungs, functioning is autonomous. Well, the implication of this will be blasphemous for all punishment-based justice systems. What do you mean we can't hold responsible people for their actions? The shock may blind us or open our eyes. It will be blasphemous to all humans, to say the least. And that might as well be a lie. Such is the destiny of ever-folding human story. That is why Ibn Rushd urged, to doubt is divine. And from that, modern Western scientific tradition was instantly born. Search for more verifiable explanations was formalized into a discipline now called science. It was amazing, but short-lived. Our trust in science has now grown to the point of blind faith again. Major Ivy schools have started manipulating data to infer favorite outcomes and putting them out for maximum political influence. Because public trusts science. Ibn Rushd has been forgotten. His "to doubt is divine" has mostly been put aside. Doubt has now become blasphemous even within scientific community. Einstein was initially mocked for questioning Newton. And if you don't believe me, mention some level of doubt in the first law of thermodynamics and observe the sincere expression of disgust on a physicist's face. In essence, it seems as humans and as Muslims, we have forgotten the importance of doubt in our survival. And that's my point that I just wanted to bring up. I assert that it is the doubt that allows us to imagine. It is the imagination that gives birth to creativity. It is creativity that discovers a new path. And it is a new path that leads us to a cure or an ingenious solution. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I contend that our survival depends on our ability and capacity to doubt everything. While the scientific world is struggling with the lack of doubt, Muslim world has seen the worst of in last 1,000 years. Doubt here is frowned upon in almost all stages of life, from cradle to grave. Perhaps the reason is that the doubt undermines the established authority from parental to state to religion. That's why it's discouraged and frowned upon. This mindset unfortunately stalls intellectual progress required for indigenously creating prosperity, not an empire coming and solving your problem and giving you trains and telephones, but indigenously creating prosperity, which is not happening in the Muslim world because it's stalled. Blasphemy law formally bans doubt. And even though we'd like to think that its application is only in the matters of religious respect, we must not forget that the sincere respect is never demanded, but commanded.
Very good.
Respect is born out of natural love and reverence we feel for something, for someone. Respect must never be confused with fear. Thus, the real impact of enacting blasphemy law at the local level or an international level to demand respect will be felt everywhere, elsewhere. The chilling message of fear that this law sends across the society, intentionally or unintentionally, robs new children of their ability to doubt, question, imagine, create, and solve. The core values for the preservation of life. It is the death penalty to a society struggling to survive with any level of dignity. So to preserve this dignity, and in our relentless hope for a more prosperous existence, I say please do not fix or change the blasphemy law, but completely repeal it. Repeal it for the sake of our generations in whose spirit the quest for prosperity marches on. Thank you very much.
13.9.
Thank you, Askari.
13.9.
2 minutes.
2 minutes up.
He looks very young, but he speaks very old. The skeptic, you see, हमने तशकीक को ईमान बना. So I think that was another point of view you could see, and I think that's